one last thing here is tell us about this hat here. Because you're not a daddy yet. So I want to know about this hat because our fans of Danger Talk, they need to know. What's up, Daddy? Come join Danger Talk with Daniel and I. We're having a lot of fun talking about the Hawks' life and more. Can't wait for it. It'll be a great season. Let's go. It's like a loop machine.
What's up, Danger Talk? Season 3, Episode 5. We're back. It's been 2 weeks.
You guys
had a short week last
officially
week. We've got our man, Tyler Lockett, number 16 in the house.
The star.
316.
Hey, 316. Little
Let's
John,
go.
316. Listen, he was a star of the game. He's been great all year. He's had a great few years here. And so it's good to have him on the Danger Talk podcast. We're excited. There's a lot to talk about here today.
A lot to talk about.
There's some really cool. Obviously, we got the catch, the infamous catch. Maybe the best catch I've ever seen. And then we also have, we're going to talk about a little mental health. We're going to talk about life. We're going to talk about just something that he's got coming out soon too that you guys all have to get. So it's an exciting day. So welcome to the podcast, episode 5. It's episode 5 already.
We're rolling.
Amazing, so.
We're rolling. So let's talk about the catch. And if you haven't seen it, we'll show it to you guys here. I mean, that was unbelievable. Could you give the Hawks fans, give the 12 just a little breakdown of kind of what the view was from your guys' perspective?
Well, for sure. We had 2 deep crossers, and they were trying to. They didn't want to run with them because they're afraid of obviously DK and Tyler running away from them. So they basically in and out of it, and Tyler gets matched up and against Weddle there at the end, and I'm just kind of scrambling. That line did a tremendous job giving me enough time, like 1001, 1002, 1003, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm scrambling. I'm like, okay, here we go. I scamper out to the left, and Tyler does a tremendous job always of keeping the play alive. And so for me, he's one of the guys you always look for, just because his effort and his attention to detail and his precision and in and out of his routes is as good as it gets in the league. And so I get out left, and I'm like, Tyler, there he is. There's 16, and I'm just trying to extend the play as long. I got Fowler trying to take off my head over here, and meanwhile, I give him a chance. I throw it to that back pylon. And I do these visualization throws before every game, as you know, and
Yep.
Tyler knows, and I do them in the corners of the end zones. I do them every little spot, and I'm a firm believer that you practice those throws to that way you know where to throw it, and you get comfortable with throwing it in tough positions and tough places. And sure enough, Tyler went to that back pylon, and the catch though, oh my gosh, like just to get the feet in and everything else, I've seen him make some crazy catches before.
Yeah.
And that one right there was pretty special. What were you thinking in your head?
Man, for me, like you said, we had the crossing route. I saw that. They kind of decided to pass it off. So whenever I ran, I just tried to stay true to the route instead of slow down when you're getting guarded. So I ran. And I always know that whenever you're looking for me, you're going to throw it regardless of if he's facing towards me and his back is towards Russ is going to let it go out there. For me, it's crazy because I feel like I did so much during the play, like pointing, like throw it over here, and then you watch the real copy and you didn't really do it like you thought you did.
You did it in your head.
Yeah, and as soon as he threw it, I just kind of tried to shield him off a little bit because, I'm not DK. I'm not the biggest type of receiver, so I'm not the type of person that's going to always win jump balls, but I know how to shield people off to where I could be able to catch it at the last minute. And so when he threw it, I kind of did that a little bit to where the DB couldn't really attack it like he wanted to, and then I was just able to catch it, keep my feet in, and I didn't really know I was in until Luke told me. So once Luke told me, then I went crazy. I didn't need the ref to tell me that I was in. Luke was like, "You got your feet in," and so it was just like one of those great moments, man. But I think the biggest thing was I was nervous going into the game, just because sometimes you wonder like what type of game it's going to be, Mm-hmm. And like I just said, stay true to yourself, stay true to the game, go with the flow, and whatever's for you is going to be for you, and whatever is not, we're going to rejoice with everybody else and celebrate. And just that play right there, I just looked at it like I just did my job. I did what we always talk about, scramble rules, being able to find a way to come down with it, all those types of things. And then I seen how everybody made it big and was like, that's a big time play. And so it just showed me like when you stay true to the little things, everybody else will determine what type of play it's going to be.
Yeah, what makes you, because I think it's interesting, you talk about getting nervous for a game. What gives you that freedom? Is it the first catch? Is it like the first big play? Like where's the moment of like release of all the nerves? Because I've always wondered, other guys, what that is.
Yeah, for me, when sometimes before we even go back out there, like I listen to Lecrae, I listen to a lot of his old stuff, like background, free from it all, just stuff like that to kind of get it off of me. Because when everything is centered around me, I start thinking too much. I start wanting everything to be perfect. And I start being, trying to be the captain of the ship. But when I go back to like certain songs that allow me to see the bigger picture, I can kind of let things go and I can go out there and I can play more free and play more open.
That's so cool because you were telling a story last night on how like
Yeah, we had Bible study last
how
night. So
music like kind of opens you up too to be free.
Yeah,
and like how you both do that.
I thought during the week I was kind of just in general. You have life in general. We all see a lot of people forget that we're athletes and we're who we are. He's 16, I'm 3, and everything else. But we have real life too, and just real things. And I think, for me, it was just a funky week for whatever reason. It was a great week. Don't get me wrong. It was a great week of preparation and everything else. But just getting ready and life and everything else. And so I was. The day of the game, I was trying to get really focused and zoned in, and sometimes like you have to learn. I think as players and elite players and what we do, you have to learn how to get up every time. Mentally get connected. And some days it's a little bit. Some days it's super easy to do it. Some days it's a little. Okay, what do I have to do that? And so anyways, for me, it's always through worship. It's always through praise. It's always through just praying. And we were talking about this at. We have a college athlete, pro athlete Bible study that we started in Seattle, and it's pretty cool. There's a bunch of people coming in, really exciting. And one of the things we were talking about last night was I was speaking and I was saying that for me through worship, that's where freedom comes for me. Raising my hands, and there's a lot of different ways to worship. There's a lot of different ways to whether it's through prayer or through singing, through song, whatever. And it could just be through just talking and hanging out with somebody else. There's different ways to do it. So for me, I was listening to this Kirk Franklin song, "Brighter Day," and it really literally brightened up my day. Just thinking about how good He is, and how grateful I am just to be able to do what I get to do and do it with amazing guys like him and every day. And the focusing, as Tyler was saying, focusing not on yourself, but focusing on others and focusing on God and what He's given us is, I think, the greatest gift and the greatest thing that gives us that true freedom for me. So I know that helps a lot with my own personal thoughts.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because just when you think about where we're at right now, everybody praises us. When you get on social media, they praise you, and then you feel good about yourself. And like I was at the point last week where I was like, God starts to bless you a lot, right, in your life. And at first you kind of had a level head, and then you started being thankful over those things. And then when you start getting blessed a lot, you start thinking that's the norm. And so now when you go into certain things, you start thinking like, oh, it's going to be like this, it's going to be like this. And then you start getting a little anxious and antsy. And then when it's not, you're not even thankful for what happened because you're expecting more than what you already got because that's what you were used to.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was being able to go back to every day. Like, you don't deserve anything. Like, you're not entitled to anything. So everything that I have, I take it away from it. I take that power away from it. And so that's where I kind of started like working on for me mentally. It's like, take the power away from everything because you don't deserve it. Now be thankful for it. So now you get 2 catches in the game. I know how to be thankful for that. I get 11 catches in the game. I know how to be thankful for that. So the thankfulness doesn't change even though the catches change or even though the yards change. So
well, Paul talks about that in the Bible. He talks about, being content with a lot and being content with little. And I think that, we all as athletes and, entertainers or, elite athletes, we really, we're competitive as can be. And Tyler's more competitive than anybody I know, and I am too. And so I think that for us, it's also understanding that this idea of humility, we've come from a place where everybody was going to say no to us. He's too small. I'm too small. I can't do it. I'm not big enough, or whatever the reasons are. People can make a ton of reasons why not. And at the end of the day, we know the reason why. And I think that's just because the grace that God's given us and the ability that He's given us. And I think that's kind of the ultimate, place that we go to. And I think also too is, as you have success, as Tyler's saying, you're always your expectations continue to rise. And I think that it's a great thing, and it should be that way. But I also think you have to know how to battle and how to compete with this idea of what everybody else sees you as, and ultimately understand that humility is everything, and just trying to learn how to constantly find ways to humble yourself, whether it's through music, whether it's through the things you say, how you help others, and it's a blessing to work on that every day.
Yeah, like one of the things I thought about yesterday, another one of my favorite artists, J. Cole, has a song and it's called Love Yours. And I was singing that yesterday as well as some other J. Cole songs. But it was just reminding me, like, just love everything about your life. Because the thing about this is when we were all having that grit to get to where we got to, we didn't worry about what was going on in everybody else's life because we always bet on ourselves and we were so focused on being able to do what we needed to do to be successful, like regardless if we got handouts or didn't. But then when you start getting here, you start seeing other people doing good. You start seeing other people, like for me, receivers, 11 catches, 200-some yards or 190-some yards, and you start comparing yourself to them and you don't realize like the type of, you don't realize exactly what you're doing for your teammates and what you're doing around the facility and how everybody's connected with you and they love you and they love to have you here. And so for me, it was being able to take out that comparing because I'm doing great here and I'm doing my job here. And that's the only thing that matters is being able to help my team win and help my team be successful and doing whatever I can to serve my teammates. But when you start getting focused on everything that's happening in the outside world, other people doing great, other people getting these contracts, other people doing these things, it kind of makes you feel a little insecure because now you feel like you have to compete. And so for me, I've started to be able to focus on loving mine again, loving my life, loving my family, loving everything that's going on with me. Because if I can't love that, then nobody else will.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you're definitely doing that, brother. You're definitely helping everybody win here and everything. And just how you go about your business every day is truly remarkable. I mean, you think about, hope we get to do this a long time together. So I think about that a lot.
Yeah. I got to give a quick shout out. How about those 12s on Thursday night, though? I mean, that was like, crazy. It was.
That may have been.
Shout out to you.
I think, let's see here. I've played here for 8 years. This is the beginning of my 8th year. And I played in some crazy games before. We played in some wild ones, the NFC Championship games and different stuff like that. And that may have been the loudest and the wildest game, I've been a part of. And I think it makes it fun for us players.
Yeah.
You fans really do an amazing job of just keeping it interesting and exciting for us every week. And it was really special.
Yeah. Yeah. How was that? Just like, how much juice really does that bring to you guys? Because, I mean,
did you see me on the side? I think I was, I don't even know who I was shaking after he missed the field goal. I was just grab somebody and start shaking their face. Let's go! Let's go! And I think I gave a 1-2-3 punch, right to the chest of somebody. I don't even know. We were just fired. I think Tyler was running around, arms all open and flying. Where'd you go? I don't even know.
I was on the other side of the end zone with Blitz in the middle of the field cheering. As soon as he kicked it, I knew he missed it. But I guess it was because of the angle that I had. Mm-hmm. So when he missed it, I was kind of like, did he really miss it? And then everybody started cheering, and I just went crazy. Because at that moment, I knew we won. But I'm not going to lie. I was looking at Russ, and I was like, bro, catch this snap. Because the last thing we need is a fumble this snap and go through this again. But, I mean, that's just what was going through my head. Man, I was just so happy. This is what people look forward to on Thursday Night Football. Mm-hmm. They want a great game. They don't want it to be a blowout or anything like that. And we gave it everything that we were supposed to. The fans loved it. And for me, like you said, this was one of the best games that happened in Seattle. Yeah. We were there when we played Detroit and Cam knocked it out. Mm-hmm. And that's up there too. Right. But for some reason, it was just that game that made it all the much more better, all the much more exciting. And I look forward to playing this week coming up because if we could play like that and have our fans like that, even in away games as well, because we have a lot of people coming with us to support us. Mm-hmm. That makes all the more the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you guys, you had a perfect passer rating last year, almost close to perfect this year. What's been kind of that growth trajectory for you guys and the connection you've been able to establish the last 2 years?
Oh man, the funny thing is, I think he makes it easy on me in terms of the space that he creates at the top of his routes, the in and out. He's very decisive. I think that gives me a chance. I think we've had some cool throws and catches. I think the one Kansas City last year was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think
awesome.
this one was pretty.
Thought it was a plane
the moon ball. So we've had some good moments, but I think ultimately it's the work ethic that he puts in at practice, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to. And one of the things that we always do is we in practice in particular, if something's a little bit off, we'll make sure right then and there we get it fixed, and we throw it again or do that again.
He will tell me if I took too long on a route.
I'm gonna let him know.
And they blitzing, and you can't do all that.
I have all that time now. and then certain routes he can, So like that communication, that quarterback. I remember going back. One of my favorite moments, and this is something that you guys need to understand is that his mind is unbelievable. So like he plays quarterback, so he watches a lot of film and everything else. But the thing about Tyler is I'll never forget Carolina last year. We were playing Carolina, games on the line, and early in that week we had to walk through, and I had thrown it, I think, to the other side and everything else on that particular play, and Tyler ended up scrambling, turning up field, and so anyways, he came back to me and said, "Hey, I think I may do that in the game." And so we get into the game. Okay, was it 3rd and 7? It's 3rd and 7. They end up pressuring and everything else. I kind of step to the right, slide back left, and it's that exact same play. And I'm like, boom. I take my eyes. They cover the other guys. Boom. And here goes Tyler. He stops and then keeps going. And sure enough, it was that exact same play. So that right there, that's that player's mind. That's that being in the zone. That's that what everybody tries to figure out. Like, man, how did they do that? It's because we communicate. It's because we talk about it and we visualize it. We see it. We feel it. We know each other. We know how long it's going to take. He always asks me, "How many steps you taking on that?" Like how long is it going to take? So that right there, that communication, that connection is everything. And it's just like any other relationship. It's just like any other business relationship or any other type of relationship. It's the communication. It's the connection and everything else. And so we've reflected back on a lot of times that I have a lot of reflections in terms of like amazing moments, and so that's been really cool. And so speaking of reflections, like Tyler, first of all, you guys don't. I think you guys know this about Tyler Lockett, but if you don't know, he's one of the greatest writers and poets in the world. Okay, the guy drops lines all the time, and so anyways, he's got a new book coming out actually called Reflection. Speaking of reflection, that's right here. Okay, this is his new book, Reflection. Coming out actually next week. What day's coming out?
October 15th.
October 15th.
Next
Listen,
Tuesday.
Tell us where it's at.
So it's going to be at Barnes & Nobles. It's going to be on Amazon and Fred Meyer's.
So I have the book already, so I'm sorry, but I'm just quarterback, so I got the book a little early, you know what I'm saying? But I want to make sure everybody gets this book because it's really powerful. I mean, this could be a best-selling book, truly. And it really is amazing. And we got one. I want to read you guys one page. Or Tyler, you want to read it to him?
Yeah, I can read it to him. Can I tell him a little bit about it first?
Yeah. But basically, just in terms of this book, you guys will really love this Reflection. Make sure you get all Seahawks fans and non-Seahawks fans if you want something to be inspired by. This is truly amazing. I've started reading it. So go ahead and tell them about it real quick, Tyler.
Yeah, so the thing about this book is I called it Reflection because in the world that we live in today, sometimes it's hard for us to be able to see ourselves the way that we should see ourselves, or if you're a believer, the way that God sees us. And for me, it's like there's so many other things out here in this world. Like we talked about, people praising us. We get caught up in money and fame and power and just people wanting to love us and be around us every single day. And all these things kind of cloud our judgments because we're looking for something to make us happy rather than being happy inwardly. And so with this book, it's me talking about all these other things that's clouding up my judgment, that's stopping me from being able to see what it is that I'm supposed to see within myself. And the more that I talk about those things, the more I can finally see myself in the mirror the way that God sees me or the way that I see myself. So it's like a self-help book. It has workshops. It has note to selves in it.
Really cool.
A lot of the stuff that I do on Instagram. One of the ones that I read to you, it's the intro one. So it's called No Longer Wounded. And so it goes like, I'm so nice to look at like palm trees. That sounded so conceited. But I can give you reason after reason, because after God created me, I know now who I came to be, and I will never ever look the same to me. People come complain to me thinking I'll sit and agree, but that's something that's no longer in my pedigree. Couple folks could have made it out if they just bled with me, but they was too scarred. Some could never get that life up and they was too gone. Now they paying for their mistakes and ain't got no Groupons. As for me, I'm moving forward with or without shoes on. Watch my life, catch the flight as I see the sunset. On my way to paradise, though I ain't seen the sun yet. I just know they say that one day he gonna come back, and I can't wait to see the world and just how he runs that. If it ain't in my life, that means I don't need that. If they hate what I'm about, then forget the feedback. I'ma live a life of faith. It may be hard to see that, but I'ma show the world God is real, and you best believe that.
That's just the intro. That's just the intro.
Mic drop.
So,
Mic drop.
That's just the intro. That's just the intro. I'm telling you, the heat is there. So just get prepared. I'm telling you, it could be a best-selling book. It should be. So let's make sure that we make that
How
happen.
long have you been doing writing? In a long time?
Yeah, man, I've been writing since 2010. So that was kind of going into my senior year. Then I started doing different poems. I did How Bad Do You Want It? That was the second one I ever did. And ever since then, instead of me getting into a lot of conversations with going back and forth with people who may not understand, I just write it in a poem. Because when I stand up there and talk and perform, they have no choice but to listen. So I talk about a lot of different things, man. Like I have a poem in here that talks about privilege. I have a poem in here that talks about, like I said, how bad do you want it? Fly high. Perspective is reality. So if you're literally gonna be here, everything's gonna look big. But if you go up to the sky, you see everything for what it is. So fly high. I got a lot of different things. Like one of my friends thought about committing suicide, and I got that in a poem, and I called it "Turn Off the Lights," because in order to see what somebody's feeling, you got to turn everything off so you can see the darkness that they see. But then at the end, I talk about turn on the light so he can see what his life is really like. And so it's just those types of different things. Like even in that note to self, after I finished that poem, I talked about how life isn't always glitz and glamours, and you have to find meaning in everything that you do. Otherwise, you're gonna be put in this situation where you have a bad perspective about life, and that's when you start to get anxiety. That's when you start to get depression. But when you start finding meaning, you start realizing that life is about living and having purpose, and that purpose is not to commit suicide, but it's about to live a purposeful, driven life. So it's like different things like that. And I just learned, like, when you try to help people, it's better to talk about yourself. Because if you talk about somebody else's scars and you try to show it to them, they feel like they're the victim. You know, they feel like you're coming at them. But when you talk about yourself, and that's why I say note to self, that's why I say reflection, because this book is for people who feel like they belong in those same stories or those same poems as being written and talked about, so they can come to that like conclusion themselves, rather than me telling them this is what you guys are like, this is what I'm like, and if you guys adapt to it or feel the same sense that I feel, then this book will be for you.
I know you and I talk a lot about just mental health in general, and just how we look at it and how we've experienced different times and how to overcome and how to battle through things, and faith and prayer and all those things, and anxiety, and how have you just dealt with that? I know you talked about love and everything else. Like I know you've had different moments, but I think I get inspired by you, man, just listening to you, and then also just knowing
that.
And so for me, I'm a big believer in that. Our mind is everything. How we view ourselves and how we talk to ourselves and how we talk to others, and how we love others and how we care for others is what we're missing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's what we're missing, and I think, but it has to be a learned thing. It has to be. We have to teach each other. We have to support one another and love one another and show each other. And this book does that. I think first of all with reflection, and then Tyler does that every day with his life. And hopefully I can inspire people as well. But how have you dealt with that? Just that little thought.
I think every day is a battle. Like, you seen last year, I was in a dark place. It was hard, it was rough. And I really seen why a lot of people did a lot of the stuff that they did. But for me, like, I would never go to the extreme of doing any of that type of stuff. I just knew that I was put in this situation for a reason. And then I started seeing, like, Kevin Love went through it, like, and then I started seeing DeRozan went through it. And I said, God, what are you trying to show me? Because I started to see, like, maybe this is the next step in where you're trying to take me at. And that's when I started realizing, like, I got another book that I'm working on right now, and this one ain't even came out yet, and it's called Therapy. Just being able to work on the thoughts and stuff. Because the truth is, everything that you went through, we don't understand that we found ways to cope with that. And when we found ways to cope with that, it might have helped us down that road. But now that we get to our future, it's not healthy no longer. And because a lot of people, like when you get in relationships with somebody, they don't understand that this is what you always used to do. And this is what made things feel better. But at some point, that's not going to feel better anymore. So now what are you going to be able to do? So for me, like, I try to learn from my thoughts, like, because my anxieties can make me worry, can make me fear, like, because of the trauma that I had. But when I start writing stuff down, I really have to, like, take myself to class in my head and say, why do you think this? Like, is this why you think that? Like, let's focus on what's pure. Let's focus on what's right. You don't have to worry about everything being about you. You don't have to worry about people saying good job. You could tell yourself good job. Like, it's a lot of different stuff that I'm learning, but a lot of it is learning how to let go and go with the flow, because anxiety is thinking about the future and you don't know what to expect. You can't control it. And when we know the person who does control our life, and sometimes that gets hard and you have to learn how to trust. But for me, when you bet on yourself, and that's why I go back to grit, because when you have grit and you bet on yourself, you don't really have anxiety like that, because it doesn't matter what's gonna be in front of you. You could lose the game. I still got that grit to bet on myself again. I got a worst game of my life. I'm still gonna bet on myself that game. And when you start thinking about that, you don't worry about the critics, or you don't worry about
The noise.
what anybody say. Yeah, you silence the noise. But when you start looking for like people to be able to tell you like validation and affirmation, when you start looking for those types of things, it brings insecurities. And then I think insecurity starts to bring anxiety, because you start to compare yourself to so many things and you think people's talking about you when they're really not talking about you. And then you start to feel a different type of way about yourself. So I feel like once you understand your triggers and you're able to work on those triggers, then you're able to live a more purposeful life and control your anxiety, because anxiety is good.
Yeah, that's one of the things. That's one of the reasons why we created Limitless Minds. You know, Trevor Moab, my brother, and DJ, because I think it's one thing to work with companies, but also work with people, and to figure out what triggers people and what makes them think negatively. You know, and how can we fix that? I think one of the first ways is by our language and what we say and when we say it, and how we say things to others. And even as a team setting, you know, when we go into the huddle, you know, we may be down by 7 and we may have 95 yards to go, but we're going to get this thing done. And I think language is everything. And then even in our personal lives and marriage and relationships, and you're not married yet.
I have a girlfriend.
But you know,
He's not a daddy.
Are you a daddy? What is that? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a second, daddy. But I think just to an honest thought is that how we speak to one another in relationships and situations and in clutch moments, and you know, what is a big controlling factor of how we view not our own selves, but the circumstances, and how we overcome. And the reality is, adversity is temporary. Adversity is temporary. And one of my favorite scriptures is James 1:2. It says, "Consider it pure joy when we go through trials and tribulations, because the testing of faith that builds perseverance. Consider it pure joy." And so I know that's one of the things that me and Sierra always talk about, is when we're going through something, or something's going on in the world, or something's going on in life and everything else, just like everybody else has, is that, you know, consider it pure joy. You know, consider it pure joy. That's what we always say to each other. And I think, you know, I consider it pure joy that I get to be with Tyler every day, to be around somebody that speaks life, that believes in the best, that overcomes, that has overcome, that has a story, that has substance. He has substance, as you guys can tell, and so that's why I'm excited. I got the book first because I'm ahead of y'all, and but yeah, so it's really cool. So
Yeah.
it's real.
I know you guys got meetings to run to, but I got one quick question just for kind of our younger viewers, younger athletes out there. I know both of you've both been told you're too small, you can't do this. What advice do you have? I know you both are passionate about youth and sports. What advice do you have to those kids out there who are being told they can't do it or they're too small?
T, you want to go first? You go first.
Yeah, I'll go first. The biggest thing that I would say is you just do the work, regardless of what people say. That's one of the things we had in there when me and JB, we do this Where Are We Going? And we talked about, if they praise you, just go back and do the work. Mm-hmm. If they talk about you and criticize you, go back and do the work. If you get everything that you wanted, go back and do the work. And regardless of what happens, just go back and do the work. You can't focus on the result, because sometimes we focus so much on the result and we don't see what we want to see. And so it starts to play with our minds and we say, maybe this isn't for us, or maybe I'm not going to get that scholarship, or whatever the case may be. But our job is to be able to put in the work, and you allow God to be able to do his part. When you allow him to do his part, the stuff that's out of your control, and you focus on everything that's in your control, regardless of what happens, you know that you're going to be okay, because everything works together for the good. One of the verses, it says, a man plans his course in his heart, but the Lord determines his steps. As long as you continue to plan your course and you continue to do the work faithfully, everything is going to work out the way it's supposed to be. A lot of times, like for me, I questioned a whole bunch of stuff that happened, especially last year. It was a whole bunch of stuff that was going on in my life when I was in a dark place, but I had the best season of my life. I didn't do any workouts. I told Russ that. Russ was trying to throw me and said, no, bro, I'm not in a good place right now. Probably worked out 4 times last year before we even started like OTAs before we started camp, and had the best season of my life. And the thing that it taught me was focus on the little things, focus on what really matters. And when I went back to that and I focused on the things that got me here, my faith, my family, my friends, I didn't worry about the extra noise. If people were with me, they were with me. If they weren't, then it was cool. I wasn't gonna force them to be with me. And I seen I had the best season of my life. And so for me, I always go back to that feeling of I overcame like that dark place. And though my mind tried to take me back there, I realized that I overcame it, and I showed myself that I overcame it. So now it's not a monster that I created that could defeat me anymore. It's a monster that I created, and now I have defeated.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think for me, I go back to certain times in my life. I think about, in high school, I was, pretty good baseball player. I was going to be drafted in the first round and everything else. And I remember when I was younger, my dad used to always wake me up, speaking about putting in the work. My dad used to wake me up every morning, and I learned how to put the work in. And I think that, if you really want to be great at something, especially when the odds are against you. The odds were against Tyler. The odds were against me, So the love for the work, though, nobody can stop that. Nobody can stop your love for the work. And nobody can stop your love for the game, for where you want to go in life. Whether if you're a young girl and you want to be an athlete, what if you want to be an actress, whether if you want to be a lawyer, no matter if you want to be a doctor, no matter what you want to be, no matter if you're a young man young boy who's trying to, be where we are right now. And at the end of the day, one, you have to believe. You have to believe in something. I think ultimately you have to believe in you. I think the second thing is that you have to have a plan. You have to write it out. You have to have a vision of where it's going to go, how it's going to look. If you had a perfect picture, what it would look like. And you should be able to verbalize that. Verbalizing that is key. I think the third thing is that ultimately that you have to have a support system. And it doesn't mean that every kid in America, every kid in the world doesn't have a mom and a dad who's right there and everything else. But find people in the support system. Could be somebody you're looking at, somebody that you're inspired by. Somebody that you watch that is the essence of who you want to become. And it may be a couple characteristics here of one person. It may be a couple characteristics of this person. It may be a couple characteristics of Michelle Obama, President Obama. It may be a characteristic of an amazing athlete. Maybe Michael Jordan. Maybe Derek Jeter for me. Michael Jordan and Derek Jeter. I loved how they were clutch. I loved how they played the game. I loved how they were always there when the game was on the line. And so, I think finding that. And I think ultimately I go back to the combine for me. So the combine, and we had guys, Andrew Luck, Robert Griffins, Ryan Tannehills, and a lot of other great quarterbacks. And I remember my draft class. I was there. There's a lot of great quarterbacks, and everybody's saying it's the best draft class and it's ever been, and blah 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 blah. And I remember being on that field, and I remember being there, standing firm. And as I was doing the drills, I was like, ain't nobody gonna stop me. They don't have a chance. They don't have a chance. And that was my mindset. I remember saying that to me. Ain't nobody gonna stop me. They don't have a chance. And that was my mentality, and still is to this day. And so your mentality and how you view yourself and who you're gonna become and what you say to yourself confidently, not in a cocky manner, but in a confident manner, that's real. And I think you set your standard. And I think the same thing is for a young athlete, for a young person who wants to be successful in anything, or even if you're an adult. How you view it, you get to control your thought process. And I love that. So one last thing here is tell us about this hat here. Because you're not a daddy yet. So I want to know about this hat, because our fans of Danger Talk, they need to know. What's up, Daddy?
Sometimes before you become something that you want to become in the future, you have to be able to prepare yourself. And so, I'm not a daddy, but I'm a godfather to a lot of my people. They got kids, and so I just love being around kids. And so I practice it. I practice it for my own life. When I'm around people's kids, I have a good time with them, all that different type of stuff, because I know you can't prepare yourself to be a father, but you can put yourself in the best position to be able to try to be one. And so, for me, I'm a kid at heart. So really, I just like the hat. I was in Vancouver, Canada. I love going to Canada. And I went into Urban Collect. what's it called? Urban Collection.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I went there and seen the hat. I told this dude Ryan Phillips, I said, I'm getting the hat. And ever since, I just wear it everywhere that I go.
You keep making plays like that in the corner. You can wear whatever you want to wear. You know what I'm saying?
I gotta read this on that catch. I read this on the internet. It was pretty crazy. The most improbable completion since 2017. Russell Wilson scrambled 24.6 yards, traveling 13.6 miles per hour at the moment of the pass, which traveled 39.2 yards in the air. Tyler Lockett was 0.2 yards from the sidelines, 1.1 yards from the back of the end zone, and 0.9 yards from Eric Weddle at the moment the pass arrived. The pass was the most improbable completion of the last 2 seasons at 6.3%.
Wow. First of all, where are you getting these stats from?
Next Gen Stats, NFL,
Amazon Next Gen Stats?
Yeah.
Okay, Amazon Next Gen
I
Stats.
saw that. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Now, I seen that, and I actually went upstairs and I talked to Pete, and Pete was talking to me about the catch, and I told him, I said, if you go back a week and a half ago, I was in one-on-ones against Jamar Taylor, and I ran a route. And I said, Russ threw it in the back of the end zone, and I caught it, and we were literally in team meeting, pressing pause. It's the same exact catch. It was just not in the corner. It was in the back of the end zone. And everybody was like, it's incomplete. And then you go back to the game, and, end up being a touchdown. But I think it's kind of like we said, and, one of the things that I'll say is, it's always being able just to continue on with the work and not focusing on the result. Because if the result becomes bigger than the work, then there will be nothing else that's going to continue to motivate you and lead you. So even though that was something that happened and the result was outstanding and extraordinary, for me, it's going back to doing the work. Because if I go back to doing the work, everybody else will tell me what the result is going to be and what the value is going to look like. But if I stop doing the work because I'm so focused on the result, then I'm never going to get to where I'm supposed to get to in this life.
Did the work include watching Smooth Criminal video in between there or what?
Man, listen,
that was awesome.
The social media is undefeated. It's undefeated.
Well, listen, we got to get back to work.
Yeah,
Speaking of work, we get ready to play the Browns. It's going to be a great week. Thank you guys for being a part of this, Tyler. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah,
thanks for the reflection. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything, man. It's a great time. So
get his book 1 week from today. Reflection, Barnes & Noble,
We'll see you
Amazon.
guys. All right.
Thank you, guys.
We're out. Danger
See
Talk.
you soon.
Episode 5. We gone. Peace. Go Hawks.
Danger Talk. We out.